Welcome to the Root of It All podcast with Tree, where you will learn new habits for human betterment. We talk about all things related to personal growth, and everything is on the table. Each episode will explore different topics like self-care, mindfulness, goal setting, and more, with a focus on practical tips and actionable advice you can start implementing in your life today. Our goal is to help you become the best version of yourself and live a more meaningful life. So grab a drink, cozy up, take your dog for a walk, or go for a drive. Join us for some fun and meaningful conversations with some amazing humans. Let's grow together. Hey everyone, so this is Tree again with the Root of It All podcast with Tree. And today I have a very, very special guest, and I wanted to release this in the beginning of January because it's very foundationally something that everybody looks for when we go into the new year. And this is Dr. Gary Leung, and he has been a massive mentor for me for well over a decade. I've learned so much off of him, so I want to share him with all of you. So thank you for joining us today.
Welcome. Glad to be here.
So one of the themes that we were talking about just before we started to record is about business and outcomes. And it's very important starting a new year if you're a business owner, or even for your own personal outcomes. There's like a mindset based upon that, which I learned a lot from Gary. So I'll let you just go ahead.
Well, I guess to really put it simplistically is from a customer's perspective, and this is the kind of stuff that I never learned in school. You know, I was in school for many years. Nobody ever really said the word customer to me until I got out into the real world. And customers don't care about tasks, right? Customers don't care about how long it took you to do something. They just care about outcomes. And, I spend a lot of time working with young people, and helping them shape, their resumes, their careers. I spend a lot of time helping young entrepreneurs, also talking about the same thing. And at the end of the day, all customers care about are outcomes. And so, if you're, running a resume, you should be very outcome oriented. When you're, working with customers, thinking about your business, you should be extremely outcome oriented. Work and effort, they're important, but your customers don't care about them. And I think in our business, I think we've tried really hard to be outcome focused and really shield our customer from, I guess, the amount of paddling we do under the water. And in some cases we paddle a lot harder than it seems, and maybe in other cases, and maybe because we've done a lot of good preparation work, or we have very good focus, we paddle less than what our customers may think. So at the end of the day, it's the things above the surface, the things that the customer wants, the things that they can hold in their hands that we deliver to them. That's the only thing they really care about. And I think that's a very good mantra when you're thinking about either your business or your career.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of good points that you brought up when it comes to being outcome oriented. So and I'm just kind of repeating a little bit what you said, but unpacking it a little bit. So just if you're writing a resume, you want it to be outcome oriented. If somebody's going to hire you, what is it that you can bring to the table for them? Right. And so even as a customer, so people that don't know, we have Gary and I've been there like the furniture since we started, but it's called Simple Website Service. So we have a turnkey service that really provides, it allows business owners to let go of any excess mind traffic around their online footprint. So it's a very cost-effective turnkey service. And we got there because we became outcome-oriented when it comes to our customers. We understood what our customers needed, the frustrations that they had. And Gary's really good at keeping things going in the direction in which it needs to go because he is so hyper outcome-oriented, which is awesome. So speak to a little bit about
I think you dragged me into this business kicking and screaming about 6 or 7 years ago. I mean, it was very clear that our business was changing, right? Mm-hmm. It was very clear it was evolving. Our customers didn't just want help with online presence. They actually wanted a website. And at the time, I remember you saying to me multiple times, probably over the course of a couple of years, this customer is asking us if we did it. We can do a website for them. I would say, no, we're not doing it. And then a few months later, you go, oh, this other customer is just asking us to do that. No, we're not going to do it. And eventually it became really clear to me that if I wasn't going to respond to our customers' needs, they were going to leave. They were going to leave us. And so the challenge then became a bit more about strategy, which has to do with this outcome theme we're talking about. And the strategy is, how are we going to win? How are we going to be different? How are we going to help our customers? Because the reason I kept saying no was I didn't want to be another website developer. There are many of them. It's a dime a dozen, and it's a commodity business. And so you and I started looking at our customers' pain points, right? And their pain points were, that one, it was very expensive to do a website. And two is they would have to get really involved. So it wasn't just, paying a bill. It was, all the time and effort and meetings and dealing with technical terms of technology, that most website developers will throw at them. Like, we need to do a wireframe and we have to do a preliminary design and then a review and so on and so forth. And we thought about how to take that away. And then we thought about, what's the other pain point of our customers? Well, it turned out a lot of the pain point of a lot of our customers was that they would spend a lot of money designing this beautiful website and they would have trouble supporting it. It would either be expensive or they just wouldn't necessarily be able to find the person who developed the website in the first place 3 years down the line. And so I think we started from that end outcome that we wanted for our customers, right? Which was a cost-effective, turnkey, easy, almost zero effort process of getting their website up and running fast. And then coupled that with just an ongoing support capability, because we decided if we were going to do this business, we weren't going to have 10 customers. We were going to have over 100 customers. Mm-hmm. And it allowed us to have the team in place to always be there to support them. And I think it's this outcome focus that allowed us to then say, okay, strategically, this is who we are. And this is who we're not, right? We're not some fancy schmancy high-end branding design agency that was going to do anything you wanted your website to do, we would do for you. We weren't going to be that. And so that's really important. And it all started because we focused on the outcome that our customers wanted. So I hope that was clear.
So one of the things that I learned very much from you, to just sort of piggyback on all the things that you're saying, is that even when I first started working with this primacy, that you'd always say, what does winning look like? What does winning look like? And so that's also the outcome oriented for our clients. What does winning look like for our clients? And a lot of people listening to this that have met me or been in the Burlington Hypnosis Center or even been to some trainings, I always talk about when I first started working with you. And one of the things that I began to do to become more outcome oriented was I was modeling your behavior. So even a lot of catchphrases that you would use, like the reality is, or what's the outcome, or what are we going towards? And over repetition, and it's not something that happens overnight, over, like, dare I say, a decade of just following certain elements of your behavior that really I took value to, and what a lot of people are taking value from me now as I'm passing it along, right? Us as humans, we learn from each other. So it's even great that as all of our customers at the simple website service, that they're also learning and they're having better experiences. Because one of the big pain points is that they weren't having a good experience. They didn't have a good experience, whether they didn't understand the tech talk when, if they're dealing straight with the person that's actually going to build their website, that we really did make it easy for them to understand, sometimes it was overwhelming for them to think like, oh my gosh, I have to take up all this information, right? So when I'm modeling you, I become more outcome oriented. And I also remember when, you're saying that I took you dragging and screaming to go towards the websites. But also too, I would always come into your office and I'd be like, oh, what about this? What about that? And you're like, no, we're sticking to this. This is what our outcome is. And because sometimes I'm also known as a little bit of a distractor. Like I can go in this direction, which I'm a way better at now. And which again, just modeling your behavior, staying focused, staying towards the outcome, staying towards what winning looks like for us as a company and the customer that we're serving. So how,
Well, yeah,
go
go ahead.
ahead. I
Sorry.
have a question for you.
Well, I mean, you're just putting me on this pedestal that I can't possibly live up to. But I'm glad you mentioned the what winning looks like, and it can be misinterpreted because unlike sports and unlike gambling, us winning doesn't mean somebody else losing. And so whenever we go into a meeting, whenever we start a project, we would always say, well, what does winning look like to us? So that we can clearly articulate what winning is at the end, whether it's when we leave a meeting, leave a phone conversation, leave anything. But that doesn't imply what does us winning and the people we're meeting with losing. It doesn't imply that. It really implies how do we generate a win-win out of any situation on behalf of our business and on behalf of our clients. And I really found the focus of that to be really important, especially before and after we get out of a meeting. I remember being younger and going into a meeting and being all excited. And at the end of the meeting, we'd all leave and I'm walking out and saying, wait a minute, like, did we all get what we wanted? What did we achieve here? What happened? Right? Whereas now, before we go into any kind of a meeting or discussion, and we can articulate what we need to come out with, whether it's, well, we have to have a strategy, Tree, before you and I meet, we have to come up with a strategy of exactly what we're doing and what we're not doing for customers. That's been really, really helpful.
And so you answered my question that I'm about to ask a little bit, but I really want to know how is it, was there a pivotal moment in your life that allowed you to think that way? Or was that, like you mentioned, you were in that meeting and you came out of the meeting and you were like, well, you're still unsure of what maybe actions or tasks that you needed to do. So what, like, was it the way that you were brought up? Was it your schooling? Was it something that you were forced to do to keep yourself on track? How did you learn this for yourself?
Well, it definitely was not my schooling. I was 10 years in university. And when I finished, my first job was as a junior engineer. And after 10 years of university, as a young kid, I was wrongly indignant about the fact that I was being offered a position as a junior engineer. And yet it was the best thing that ever happened to me because as a junior something, I ended up having a lot of mentors and I was allowed to make mistakes. And so through the first 10 years of my career, there were people in the company that I worked with, and then later I became a consultant, and I worked with some Fortune 100 companies like the Procter & Gamble's and the Unilevers of the world. And these are very sophisticated, highly intelligent organizations. And even though they were my customers, I probably learned more from them than they did from me about the level of sophistication, about their outcome orientation, about when they had their game faces on and they were working, that they were thinking about things in a very sophisticated and strategic way. And I guess the first 10 years of my career were probably more formative in a different way than the 10 years of university that I had. Because maybe through osmosis, a lot of that resonated with me, about the way that my superiors as well as my customers behave in these highly intelligent companies.
When we're training people, like for hypnosis, neurolinguistics, or even clients of ours at the Simple Website Service, that's a big thing. And even you and I working together, there's a big theme of there's no such thing as failure. There's only feedback and what it is. So you're saying like you had 10 years under being able to make as many mistakes as you wanted, and you learned so much by actually doing, right? So even when people go to school and they're studying and they're learning, but when they actually get out there and start doing, that's when the real richness of all the learning start to really come to fruition as they're actually experiencing the things that they were learning for so many years. And it's so important that all of us as humans, if we're trying to try to get it right the very first time, it's almost impossible. There's really no such thing, or it's just by accident, right?
Yeah, no, that's true. And I think the other advantage that I have is I started about 10 years ago working with young people, because I wanted to give back a bit, and I wanted to maybe be that person that I wish I had. But the fortunate part of it is in doing that, it's forced me to put names and labels to some of these concepts. So, you know, what winning looks like, or being outcome oriented, or things that playing the financial movie in your mind if you're a young entrepreneur, and then playing the emotional movie in your mind when you're a young entrepreneur. Those are terms that I use in communicating them, and it's allowed me then to solidify, I guess, the models and the thinking in my mind about some of these concepts, which I think if I never had to teach it or articulate it, they would be something that would be harder to hold in your hand. You know?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's also amazing how much we learn when we're teaching, right? Because you're learning how people are taking in the information. And even when you are outcome oriented, you can shift and change however it is that you're doing things when you're seeing other people take in the information, which is very.
I think it's pretty much a truism in life that if you can't teach it, you don't really understand it.
That's true. Yeah. See,
So,
there's another one of Gary's things.
Well, but it's true because there's so many times that somebody has taught me something, and then I'd go home and my wife would go, "Oh, what'd you learn?" And I'd be like, "I thought I understood it until I tried explaining it to you." You know, so life is like that, right? So it takes, at least for me, I'm not so intelligent that you can tell me something like, teach it. I mean, it needs to sit in my brain for a while. I need to nurture it, regurgitate it, and maybe put some labels to it. And then maybe, if I'm lucky, I can articulate it to somebody else in a coherent way. So.
Well, the one thing that you taught Jeff and I, so Jeff is my husband. Well, you know that, Gary, but for people that are listening, but is about just having the balance in life. Like I remember it really stayed with Jeff and I when we were having the conversation about travel and about having experiences. So teach us a little bit more about that whole concept of living life and having experiences, about traveling. And, all of us were really here only from cradle to grave, right? And as you're having that balance in life, I don't know if you remember that conversation, but it really stuck with Jeff and I.
Yeah, I think the theme is the same, right? It's about what winning looks like in your life. And so you have to think about it. Am I engineering my life for success, or am I engineering my life for happiness? And in fact, I listened to the podcast recently, and I really liked this term. And the guest said, was asked, are you happy? He goes, I'm not happy, but I'm happier. And he goes, I want to achieve happierness. and it was the right point, because he's saying being sustained happy is not realistic. We, as humans, we go through emotions of sad, happy, all sorts of things, but we want to keep trying to achieve being happier. And so if you now go back to what winning looks like, and you say, okay, I've got my family, I've got my career, I'm making decent money, I've got a business. Okay, but what is it all towards? I mean, yes, part of it is towards fulfillment, right? Part of it is knowing that you can get out of bed every day and you're needed somewhere. That is great. Part of it is being able to add value, and I'm really big on understanding value creation and adding value. But then for yourself and your family, for the people you love, what is happiness? And for me, and I think for a lot of people, it's about buying the only thing that matters, right? And it's about taking your money and buying the only thing that matters, and it's buying memories. Mm-hmm. And if you can buy memories with the people you love, at least for me, and I think for you and Jeff, that is what creates happiness. And so if you can do that and fit it in the context of your professional life, then to me, like, that's winning.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about having oodles of riches or, oodles of titles. I mean, who cares, right? It's about being able to build the memories with the people that you really care about at successively happier and happier times.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's so interesting, like in the Hypnosis Center, we talk a lot about people and their outcomes, obviously, but it's all about them having the experiences that they need to have in order to get to those outcomes, right? So and the more experiences that people have going towards their outcome, and then all of a sudden they're there, as opposed to thinking about it. A lot of people, I find, and I don't know if you find too, working with this younger generation, that sometimes people can get caught up in their head or looking for what's right or what's wrong or what should I do, or they spend so much time researching as opposed to actually having those experiences, right? Like when you talk about happiness, which I love that word, and we can spend our time as humans just over analyzing, or we can spend our time creating the memories that we need. So the memories, experiences.
Well, I'm guilty as charged, right? I mean, I'm an engineer by training, so I mean, I analyze things until they probably shouldn't be analyzed. And so it's been learning for me as well that sometimes one should just stop analyzing. And I mean, the other truism in life, right, which I didn't learn until a much later age, is I mean, you really only regret the things you don't do, right? So I don't think there's a thing that I've done that I've regretted, but there are a few things I haven't done that I regret. Whether they've been missed opportunities or I haven't done them yet. I mean, certain things I'll never get to do. For example, like, I think I might have told you this one time. When I was young, like, I never worked in a kitchen. Nobody would hire me to work in the kitchen now. But when I was in my early 20s or teens, I wish I had worked in the kitchen for 4 months. And people ask me, well, why do I say that? Because I think I'd be a better business owner if I worked in a kitchen. I can't prove it. I just think that. So in life, if there's an opportunity that you feel like you should do, if you can do it, you should just do it.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you say like work in a kitchen because I've always actually wanted to work like as a waitress or like a bartender, which I've never done.
Yeah.
Because it's like it's about interacting with people and you're in this sort of rhythm or mechanism. Like any kind of if you're in a kitchen, there's like a certain process or like you're in this sort of flow, mood, or energy. Like I look at some really good bartenders and they just like they're floating all along the bar as they're like mixing like 6 drinks at a time plus pouring like 2 glasses of wine and they're just there and it's I don't know, it's mesmerizing almost, it's meditative just watching that happen. And I could imagine that even being in that you get in, you learn so much about yourself and physical movements, the rhythm of it, even the capabilities of learning how to, well, if you're in a kitchen, you're chopping, you're cooking. So heat management, even how many dishes you would have to have going all at once to supply food for X amount of people. Like that's, yeah, it's fascinating.
Experiences I'll never have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Besides a kitchen, if you were to pick any other career other than being like an engineer and the careers, what career would that be?
Oh gosh. I mean, I love sports, right? So it would have been cool. It would have been cool if I could have been, um, had a profession where I use my brain to impact sports outcomes. I mean, nowadays, I mean, sports are really deep into analytics. I mean, I don't kid myself. I mean, I do not, I'm not even close to having the physical abilities to ever be anywhere close to professional sports, except unless I buy a ticket. But, um, but if I had been able to, leverage, I guess, some of my analytical skills and maybe my people skills, uh, to be involved in professional sports, that would have been cool. So I think if I had to pick, that would be it. But no regrets with my career. I mean, I'm the kind of person that, if I'm at a party, somebody says, "Hey, Gary, what do you do?" I have trouble answering. And I wear that like a badge of honor because I don't think there's a label for for my job. I don't think half my friends know what I do.
Yeah, actually, and myself included in that. Like if somebody asks
Yeah,
me what I do, it's like just a people person. I don't know. I do a
yeah,
lot of things.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's interesting though, like when you, look at going back to like the sports analytics, right? Because of everything like being online and different algorithms and programs and different things like that, it's almost like there's too much information about each and every individual um, professional sports player, right? Like back in the day before when it was just television, you probably like look at hockey, how many assists or how many goals or um, how many penalties. Whereas now it's like they actually hook the players up to all of this machinery and like what's their agility like, their heart rate, or all the, like how many injuries have they had or what, and then they create the algorithm. So yeah, I couldn't even imagine or comprehend all of the information and even just what I'm saying is probably not even 10% of the information that they take in for one player. And then you think about how many teams, how many players on each team, also the coaches. And yeah, it's just, I know way too much about hockey. Jeff, like, just
It's,
hypnotized my brain into knowing too
but
much.
all of that is a microcosm of our lives in 2023 going on 2024, right? I mean, we'll never
Mhm.
have to argue about facts ever again, right? I mean,
Which
any
takes the
fact,
fun out of things
yeah,
sometimes.
any fact is, I mean, I joke about that with my friends. So, I mean, to win in, in, in this world, in this information age world, which we've been in for like 20 plus years, I mean, knowing more facts than your competitors is not a competitive advantage, which
Mm-mm.
is again why we have to focus so much more on understanding what our strategy is, uh, which is very outcome centric.
Yeah.
Of well, how are we going to position ourselves, whether it's our careers or our business, or maybe even our value proposition to the world, my wife, to our friends. What's our value proposition? And it's not because I know more things than someone else, right? It's not because we build a better website. It's not because we manufacture a better widget. It is more starting at the root of where our customers are, what is their pain, and how can we take that pain away so that they are willing to hire our expertise, on the business side, or spend their most valuable asset, like our friends, which is their time, with us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That is, so I love that. Your most valuable asset is your time.
Yeah.
That's a good, I've heard you say that before, and that really resonated with me. Go ahead.
Oh my gosh. Like, as I get older, I mean, that's absolutely true, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the most valuable asset isn't money. It's not stuff. It's not my phone, right? It's time, because that's something that I'll never get. I'll never get more of. To give you an example, my dad calls me periodically. He's in his late 80s now, right? And he calls me, and often it's about a technology problem that he's got at home, and and almost every time he calls me, he starts with the sorry I'm bothering you. And I'm at the age now where every time he calls me or every time I talk to him, I'm out with him, it's a gift. I know that. And because I know time is limited. So I didn't think that way in my 30s. I was too busy with my own life to deal with my parents at the time. So it's all of those things where focusing on what winning looks like, and maybe projecting yourself into the near future. You know how I was alluding to what winning looks like when you come out of the meeting you're about to go into. Well, what does winning look like when I project in the future with my parents, with my kids, with my wife, with my friends, with my own life? That drives a lot of my behavior in terms of what am I going to do in the next minute? What am I going to do? What trip am I planning with my wife, with my family, with my friends? What outings, what interaction? The kids came over last night. We decorated our tree. Well, they're 25 and 27, but we still make a point of doing that. Why? Because that's really valuable. That's more valuable than spending a lot of money going out for dinner. So it's those things that help me to win in the way that I've defined winning. And it should drive our decisions in the near term if we can project in the maybe somewhat near future what winning looks like for us.
Mm-hmm. And that's the biggest, that's a massive takeaway I think everybody should take, is just what does winning look like for you, even when it comes to time? How are you spending your time? Right. And so there's a lot of good points here. And I encourage everybody, maybe even listen to this twice. And and feel free, I will share Gary and you can model Gary's behavior too. Like he's always been kind of like my compass or things. And I appreciate the graciousness in terms of, the back and forth and, rereading stuff. I'll send you something and then you'll Garyfy it in a good way. And so I really appreciate you coming here, spending time with me, and also being my first podcast for 2024 when you guys listen to this. And I'm sure you'll hear more from Gary.
Thanks for having me. It was my pleasure.
Well, folks, that's a wrap for today's episode of The Root of It All with Tree. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. But before we go, I just wanted to remind you that you can follow us on social media. You can find us on Facebook or Instagram. And we will be posting motivational quotes and behind-the-scenes content that you won't want to miss. You can always sign up to come live while we're filming this, or even join us online through Zoom. We always offer open question and answer after each episode that we don't record, so it's all private, but you can get more involved. So sign up for free at businessgrowthresults.com, and we're going to cover all kinds of different topics that you're not going to want to miss. And if you're looking for that one-on-one guidance or help, be sure to book a free screening. You can do that at burlingtonhypnosis.ca or call 905-634-4777. And finally, you can catch our podcast on all major podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. So be sure to subscribe and never miss an episode. Thanks for listening.